I couldn't find any music that I felt like was a good fit, so we won't be playing music, but I think that's okay. We'll just let people embrace the silence.
The last time there was a whole automotive playlist for me.
Like, oh, really?
Song that mentioned cars.
I'm like sorry anything, we can't.
I was gonna say anything by the Cars, right?
Okay, I'm gonna start admitting people.
Oh, we got like a conference room there.
Oh. Oh, yes.
Hi, Rochelle.
Hi.
Good to see your face.
You too, Cheryl.
Staying busy this summer with the boys?
Oh, they're having a blast of a summer, especially compared to last year.
Oh, I think everyone is. Finally, some sort of normalcy for these kids.
That's right.
Are they in summer camps or what are they doing?
Well, this week they're having yaya time, but yeah, we've done a couple different camps and just going out on the boat and getting out as much as we can.
Yep, Grandma and Grandpa is always fun.
Oh yeah, my kids don't miss me one bit.
They get to be the good parent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Amanda Rossi. I am this year's president of Media Alliance of Houston, and we're so glad that y'all are joining us for our July webinar and for our automotive webinar today. I would like to thank all of our corporate sponsors. On our next slide. Thank you to Odyssey, Brivik Media, Carlberg, Centro, Clear Channel, Effective, iHeart, KHOU, KIAH, KTRK, Love Advertising, and MMI. If you are interested in becoming a corporate member, you can reach out to our VP of Membership, Avery. Her email is listed here and is also on our website, where you can get details on how to become a corporate member for Media Alliance. We would love for you to join us again for our next webinar in August, which will be on August 11th about attribution. There will be more details to come on that, so be on the lookout. We also just got great news that we will be having Media Classic in October, so mark your calendars for the Houston Media Classic on Thursday, October 28th at the Atascocita Golf Club. I know there will be more details coming on that, so be on the lookout for that as well. And then another piece of announcement, if you are 3 or less years in the advertising industry, or you have coworkers that you know would benefit from this, one of the programs that we have for Media Alliance of Houston is Making Access Happen, and we'll be having an August event. We would love to grow our list of those that are new in the industry to continue to introduce them to what's happening in advertising. So if you know anyone that's interested, have them reach out to Liz Ferrari. Her email's listed here, and there's also information on the website. So let them know, or have them send an email to the email there or to myself. And those are all of our announcements. Just so you know, we are hoping to get back in person by 2022. We will continue to give more information as we have it, but that is our plan. We will keep having these great webinars throughout 2021. And with that, I will pass it over to our VP of Programming, Chris Caldwell. Real quick, I know that everybody knows this, but we appreciate everyone continuing to mute themselves. And if you, while Rochelle is presenting, just remember that you can always change your view in the top right corner. I know that everyone has been very zoomed in the last couple of months, but sometimes we all need a good reminder of how to adjust our views. So if you need any help, feel free to reach out in the chat if you're confused. We're happy to help. With that, I'll pass it over to Chris.
Hello, everyone. Before I introduce our speaker today, just real quick, after the presentation, we'll do a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please type it in the group chat, and I will moderate those and condense them if necessary. And we'll, like I said, park a couple 10 minutes after the presentation for Rochelle to answer questions. So as we were polling membership about topics to cover, it's been a while since we've talked automotive, and there's a lot that's changed with automotive. You know, it's a giant chunk of media spending. You know, Rochelle's going to touch on this, but there's a lot of inventory situations and different, you know, pre-owned nuances. So we've decided to find the best local expert we could find, and Rochelle Salinas is our speaker today. So she's a native Houstonian. You don't find many of those. She went to U of H. She described herself as a serial exchange student, and as such, she's fluent in Spanish. She was destined to work in the automotive industry. When she was studying abroad at U of H, she actually worked in Mexico for a manufacturer of fuel level units and gas tanks. So upon graduation and returning to the United States, she's worked in public relations for various agencies. She continued to work on many automotive products, including the Grand Prix of Houston and the Houston Auto Show. Now she's in-house as Executive Vice President for the Houston Automobile Dealers Association. HADA is an advocate for new car and truck dealers in Houston and manages the production and public relations for the auto show. She lives in the Heights with her husband and 3 boys, ages 4, 6, and 9, which I think is probably her primary hobby outside of work. But she also is a member of a boat club in Clear Lake, and so she spends time on the water. So with that, I'd like to introduce Rochelle Salinas.
Thank you, Chris and Amanda. I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation again. I'm actually coming to you from Chicago. We are here for a conference with all of the automotive executives from around the country and all of the auto shows from around the country to talk about all of these many changes that we've seen accelerated in the past 2 years, extremely. And it's nice to be able to, you know, still participate in these type of opportunities and talk with you from wherever. You know, those are the good things that come out of the circumstances that we've survived the last 1.5 years. So thanks to this technology. I'm here from all the way from Chicago. And I want to have a presentation to share, and just want to start with, for those, I know a lot of people that are participating today, having worked in Houston over 10 years, and it's really nice to have and build relationships over time, and that's probably one of the most valuable things that we can have out of these types of associations like yours and like ours from the auto show and from the auto industry. But for those of you who don't know me or haven't seen me present before, the last time I presented to you all was 2019 January, right before our auto show took place, and man, a lot of things have changed since then. But just to talk a little bit about who HADA is and the auto show, yes, we are the advocates for all of the new car dealers in Houston. We represent now nearly 200 rooftops in the greater Houston area. And these are privately owned or publicly owned, family owned dealerships of all new car and truck dealerships. So it's a big association compared to many across the country. And then we coincide with the Texas Auto Dealers Association and the National Auto Dealers Association as well. But locally in our area, we advocate for franchise laws. We're a lobbyist of sorts to legislative during the legislative sessions. We have a lot of community service programs, scholarships, and then really represent as a whole voice for the auto dealers. And many people don't realize that we actually provide 4 trucks a year to the sheriff's department to work the motorist assistance program. So we provide free roadside assistance to people on Houston highways 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So if you're ever in need, wave at those text-out cameras or just call 713, call MAP, and someone will come and help you. They'll bring you gas, they'll tow you off to safety, they'll make sure that you're protected. And that's all from the efforts of our franchise dealers coming together to say, okay, we want to help our community in different ways. We've also given back in a lot of ways to different community efforts. We funded some outfitting of 2 new trucks for the fire department so that their K9 arson unit would have safe conditions for their cute arson pups that they use to investigate fires. They were in hot, unair conditioned, old 1980 pickup trucks before we stepped in and said, no, these dogs need clean, safe environment along with the firefighters to do their job. And we're supporting the Houston Police Department as well in various efforts in funding part of their tactical village. If you have not seen the tactical village that is out by the Intercontinental Airport, it is a full Houston city inside of a building that they use for active shooting scenarios and training, and it is absolutely incredible. So HADA and the auto show sponsored part of that building and execution of that. And then we also have a system, an internal system called Dealer Alerts. It's been on the news a little bit recently, and we have a whole process of capturing fraudulent vehicle purchasers. So many people come in and try to purchase a vehicle using a fraudulent ID. We have now a training system in place for our dealers to alert HPD and alert us so that they're not just going down the freeway to the next dealer. So we help activate not only safety and legislative, but community efforts at HADA, and that's our whole purpose of existence, as well as having conversations like today and answering questions and creating knowledge around the whole community. So I know what you're interested in is what is the automotive climate today? What are things going on post-COVID or in this recuperation? So when we were meeting with a dealer, once we were able to meet again, he gave me my favorite quote of 2020. And that was, if you didn't find your hustle in 2020, you don't have any hustle. And I find that so true for the many people that have survived or found a way to get through this pandemic by learning technology, adapting the way that they work and communicate an environment you have to be in, by starting new side jobs just to survive and making adaptations to keep each other safe. And I applaud everyone that has done that, because that's what's been able to make us all be here today. And the dealer network is someone that definitely put their bootstraps on and made the hustle happen. And they've, for all of the things that the dealers get backlash on, and not being friendly enough or not being innovative enough, and you should do direct sales because it's so easier and faster. Well, they've all adapted in this environment, and have made those changes to improve customer relations, to be more tech savvy and offer at-home test drives and online purchases, and really transformed all of those things that people have been asking for quickly in this pandemic. And I'm proud of our dealers for making those adaptations. So just to look at sales right now. So our lowest, to put things in perspective, our lowest year in sales was in 2009, following that economic crash that we all remember. We really bounced back along the way, and in 2015 has still been our record year of sales at 376,000 vehicles sold in the greater Houston area. In 2019, becoming more recent, we were only down by 5,000 units from the year prior. In 2020, that's when everything hit, and you can see from the graph there, we were pacing pretty well with the years, and then the pandemic happened, and we had to fight as an association to keep our dealerships open as essential businesses. Remember when everyone got sent home and you had to be an essential business, but there had never been qualifications of exactly what all were essential businesses. So we really had to work as an association to talk with all of our legislative leaders and decide that, and to describe why a dealership was an essential business. And imagine that if you were, even on the simple scale, had a vehicle lease that was up during this pandemic. You know what happens if you don't turn in your vehicle lease? You're going to get in some big financial problems. You're going to have some credit issues. So we're like, for leasers, you have to have a way for them to turn in and get a new vehicle. Second, what if you are an essential worker at a hospital and you get in an accident on your way to work and you total your car? You can't buy a new one because the dealerships are closed. They're not deemed essential businesses. That wasn't going to be fair to others either. Same thing on service. If you broke down and needed service repair, or your brakes went out, or whatever other issues that have, you still need to maintain the maintenance of your vehicle to get to your essential business. So we were able to work with all of our local legislators and make sure that we were in that list. And that is for sure what helped sales keep going in our Houston market. And I'm here with colleagues from around the country. That was not the same for many people in other cities and states. So because of that declaration, and with people having an eager want to spend money, we have been able to maintain sales compared to 2019. So it's not a huge difference in sales from 2019 at 292 to 248 in what we saw in 2020, and we're really thankful for that. So currently, we're dealing with other issues. It's not just essential business anymore. Now it is inventory, it's economic strain, it's customer service, it's all kinds of things, but we're still continuing to stay above 2020, which is most important, even though inventory is at an all-time low. So just to talk about those inventory issues right now, everyone has heard about the microchips. And to just give a little bit of background on that, it's not just one microchip. Cars have hundreds of microchips that make them work. And when the pandemic happened and slow sailed across the country, the supply chain of the manufacturing companies decided, okay, let's halt the purchases of these microchips. So then the microchip manufacturers took their business decision and started producing microchips for other equipment, for computers, for appliances, for credit cards, for everything else that actually uses these computer microchips. So when manufacturers decided to come back on board and stop making ventilators and start producing vehicles again, now they're at the bottom of the sales chain, and now there's a shortage of microchips. It's not just there was a fire at one manufacturing plant of these microchips in Asia. There's so many factors that go into this. And so manufacturers are still producing vehicles. There's one manufacturer who has a whole shut down airport in Detroit who is filling the airport lot with vehicles that have no microchips in it until they can get those microchips in to sell. And not only that, there's now shortages also in all the way down the manufacturing chain, from shortages in leather, shortages in rubber, and in petroleum products. So this is all going to play into what inventory continues across the line. And I think that's why manufacturers are kind of stockpiling some vehicle models. And those vehicle models are tending to be the models that are the most profitable models, the ones with the highest trim lines, because that's where they're going to make their money to be able to continue on once things get back flowing again. Everyone has a different prediction of when that's going to be, so I can't even give you that. Some people are saying, oh, by the end of third quarter, we'll start seeing inventory come back. Some people are saying it's going to be third quarter of 22 until that happens. I don't really know. No, it depends on each manufacturer, really. However, used cars are at an all-time high, and this is one area that the manufacturer or the dealerships are able to continue to survive in profitability with their service departments and with used car sales, and they're selling exactly if they're used to getting 50 vehicles on a lot and they're now only getting 15, they have those 15 sold in advance before the vehicles are even here. So everyone is raving about how well they're doing in sales, but they're also living nervously kind of on the edge about how things will continue, because the customers are still buying, they're still shopping, they're still coming in, and they're changing their attitudes in the sense that they're not saying, oh, I want to see 5 of the same model in different colors, different trim levels, different accessories. Now they're saying, just give me what you got. And they're not really caring about which vehicle they have available. They just want to get a vehicle because they saw it and they want it and they need it, and they're buying it then at sticker or above sticker in some occasions, which is really insane. Nationally, the sales trend is about 2% down from 2019, because we don't want to count 2020. It is kind of skewed across the country of who was deemed essential businesses or not. So getting into one other, going back on the talking about the MSRP and buying at sticker price, we monitor the average retail sales price of the vehicle each month. And I was like, I'm interested to see what a vehicle cost in 2020 versus what they're selling for right now. So in 2020, the average truck or SUV sale was at $43,000. Last month, it was at $46,768. That's almost a $4,000 increase in average purchase of a vehicle, which is really significant, because usually that only adjusts by a couple $100 month to month. So all of this plays into how are dealerships and manufacturers advertising. And I know that you guys are curious and probably concerned in a sense when an advertiser says, I'm selling all 15 vehicles, why do I need to advertise? Well, fear not, many are continuing with their advertising plans just as they had before. But before we get to that, I want to talk about who's buying cars today. We were just having this conversation here at this conference as well. And when I presented to you all in 2019, I gave this statistic backwards. In 2019, boomers were the largest group of people buying vehicles in the US today, in the US then. And we predicted that in 2020, millennials would actually be buying more new cars and would be out buying everyone in new cars. Well, we actually saw that come true in that prediction in 2020. They counted for 32% of all total new car sales. So I felt it fun on the inside, because I had told people, stop worrying about the millennials. They will come around. As soon as they have kids and need a car seat, they are going to buy their own car. They're not going to Uber and use public transportation forever. And we saw that come true. So they are now the key place to market. And in the presentation today, like I said, someone said, well, we need auto shows to be sure that you are getting a demographic there that is younger, because those are the ones that are buying cars. And I think you have to think about that in your creative advertising, as well as making sure that you're attracting those millennials and younger to be sure that they are the ones seeing your advertising. So who's visiting the dealerships? How is this happening? Are people actually going there? Well, we've already known, and it's been trending, that people are visiting dealerships less and less, and they're probably only going to 1, maybe 2 dealerships, and it's more probably already in the buying and negotiating process. And it's also because they're in this inventory shortage looking for a particular vehicle, but they're doing that online and on the phone before they even come to the dealership. But I had to pull this quote from our NADA president, Rhett Richtart, and he said, while we know the pandemic has accelerated customer adoption and fully digital sales, we also know that many customers will still want to do what they've done before, which is start the sales and financing process online. Let's be efficient here. but come to the store at some point to complete the transaction. This isn't just buying a cell phone, guys. I mean, we have to sit in it, make sure you fit in it, make sure all your accessories are there, it's comfortable for you. People still want to touch and feel a vehicle, so they have to go to a dealership to do that. But I mean, everyone is thinking efficiently. They're still using online in many, many ways. And during this pandemic, that's definitely increased. Nissan launched a Nissan at Home program that is the wholesale process online. Stellantis brands, which is FCA, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, etc., Chrysler, they are also launching a new digital platform to see your virtual showroom and make your direct purchase there, but it connects you in the end with a dealership. And that, you know, many of them are making sure that you've got that online presence to make the buying decision before you head to the dealership. So how are people buying cars? Like I said, they're looking at things online. The digital marketing aspect is really vital here. I just pulled a recent snapshot of YouTube. 70% of people are going to YouTube and watching a car review before they make a car purchase. They're looking at test drives, features, options, technology. In the Bronco, I mean, it's one of the most popular videos to watch is how to take on and off the doors and the roof and accessorize the new Ford Bronco. And these videos are not just getting, you know, a couple 100,000 views, they're getting 3 million, 4, 5 million views. So if you're not doing digital advertising in the YouTube platform, you're probably missing some really direct consumers that are ready to purchase vehicles. So I had to make sure I was getting, you know, information direct from the horse's mouth. And I went and spoke to many of my dealers about how they were advertising today. And knowing that many of you are agencies and advertising associates, I wanted to be sure that I wasn't getting your opinions because you know them. I wanted to talk with what the dealers were finding successful and what they were appreciating for all of you. And I had one scenario when I know that this could come across, like I was saying, as low inventories and maybe they don't want to advertise, but some dealers definitely find this to be an ideal opportunity for them. And in business, this can be strategic. By this example, I was talking to a suburban Kia dealer, and he has a $60,000 budget month to advertise. He never stopped that during COVID. He has not stopped it now. And his more urban competitor, who always outsold him, reduced their budget to $10,000 a month over the past year. What actually happened is the suburban dealer would lift his sales, and he has been continuing growing his sales. But what that did for him as a business is that gave him access to an advantage on inventory allocation. And so how it works with these manufacturers, they say, if you're selling more, we give you more. If you're selling less, we're going to give you less. So because he's kept his ad budget and was selling more vehicles, then he started getting more vehicles to sell, continuing him to outgrow his competitor. And now it's going to be hard for his competitor to catch back up. So there is definitely advantage to keeping your advertising budget going, as you all know that should keep going. But what some of their feedback to me was really a big shift in focusing online and digital advertising and making that creative, because so many people are starting online first, and that's where you've got to capture them throughout the whole process and continue sending them messages. Social media presence has also become a big priority for our dealers, because when people couldn't come into dealerships and build those relationships, they were having those online chats or those social media commentary taking place versus it happening in the dealership. And that was one way for them to build recognition, reviews, and relationships with people online. They're also operating extremely lean and really focusing on good customer service experience. So they're appreciating even more when that customer is coming into the dealership. They want to make sure that it's not just a transaction, that it is a relationship, that they're educating them on the vehicle. And I think knowing that in the creative process is really important as the advertiser, to share that you're not just getting a transaction, you're not just buying a car here, you're also building a family and having a resource to come to for safe and secure service and your next vehicle, and so on. A few of the things that they did say is they're really adjusting their budgets to that digital process and to direct marketing. That direct marketing is mostly because people were traveling less or closer to home. And most sales do happen within a few mile radius of their dealership that is nearest to someone's home. But even more so, you know, the dealerships are not having that competitive process of reaching outside of their districts for advertising. They're making sure that they're focusing in on their neighborhoods and building those community relationships with that direct marketing and talking more with previous customers, trying to get them back in, saying, don't forget be loyal to us because we want to be loyal to you. And then similar to social media, those Google ratings and the social reviews have become really important for these dealers too, because when you are starting that process online and then finally deciding between 185 dealerships in Houston, you're going to look at those reviews and make sure that you're going to get a good experience when you go. So that's kind of what I've heard from the dealers, and you know, the passion of ours is definitely to help and support all of you and make car sales. I mean, that's how we exist in Houston, is for our association, is our dealers being successful, and we know that you're a big part of making those dealers successful by having some great advertising. And one of our passions is the Houston Auto Show, and that is why one of the number one reasons we have the auto show and brought it in-house is because the whole point of the auto show is to engage and spur auto sales in the Houston market. So this is my own spin on our own non-traditional, you know, advertising process, because I think it's really important when we are capturing 60% of the attendees at the auto show who are ready to purchase a vehicle. This is a great opportunity for you to cross-market and leverage that opportunity with a local event and capture those people direct. So Houston's been taking place 39 years. We've had an auto show, so it's a long-standing family tradition. It's not just a festival or an event to go to, and we've really grown our attendance. Minus our summer event in our pandemic year, we usually have about 100,000 visitors to the auto show, and that's, like I said, 60% of them are planning to buy a car. So you've got a captive audience there, and if you can track them from the auto show or before, during, and after, you've got a really great opportunity to send those leads and capture those sales for your dealers. And you know, just talking about how we had to have our summer auto show, we're talking a lot about that here at this conference as well, and it was a real challenge because we planned in about 3 months, and it was hit or miss if we were actually going to be able to have the event, because the Houston Rodeo was going to take our space and our dates, and then they canceled at the last minute. So then at the end of March, they said, okay, you can plan your event for May. And we're like, how are we going to pull this together? And we were so grateful to see the manufacturers that stepped up to participate and jumped right in. And then those manufacturers that couldn't attend for many reasons, and many of them still being that they followed corporate COVID protocols, were able to be a part of the show through their dealer groups. So talking about those dealer groups, we surveyed the National Auto Dealers Association surveyed all of the dealers across the country to measure what they thought was important in an auto show. And because it's been a kind of a rumor that dealers don't really care about the auto show. Well, it's kind of like you love your redheaded stepchild, and they're probably the golden child in the family, but you just don't treat them the same and you take them for granted. That's kind of what happens with our auto show, is that, you know, the dealers really take us for granted. But when finally asked personally, how do you feel about the auto show? 75% said their brand has a negative impact if they're not at the auto show. And they know that it impacts sales. And many customers come and with 3 different vehicles in mind. They test them out right at the auto show, one-stop shop, and then they change their mind on brands that they're choosing. So this is the chance to really promote your brand and make sure that it's the top choice. And if you're not there, you're not in the comparison selection. So our point of the auto show is to spur sales, 10 million people go to auto shows around the country. It's really important. But selfishly, Auto Show is actually our nonprofit gala fundraiser of the year. That is what funds the efforts of HADA and how we're able to provide those scholarships, the motor assistance programs, support the community, make sure our dealers are being represented well legislatively and keeping this competitive business going. So it's really important for us to continue with a successful auto show and continue spurring those automotive sales in Houston. It's really an economic driver for our city. We look at many measurements in Houston for what is economically impacting our city. And we know that healthcare is one, housing market is one, but automotive sales absolutely attributes to that too. And its success really measures how we're doing in Houston also. But people are definitely still coming to the auto show because they want to see, touch, drive all the different types of vehicles that are there. Technology is quickly expanding in the automotive market. I mean, electric vehicles to autonomous driving to all of the continued safety features that are happening today. People are really, that's the only place that they can go without the pressure of a dealership to experience a vehicle in its entirety. And this is the best place to do it. And this year at the 21 show, we had an electric vehicle display put on by Evolve Houston, who is a coalition trying to spur the change into an EV vehicle here in Houston by 30%, which is big because Texas only has 2% of all EV sales in the whole United States. But they had an exhibit this year, and it was they were the hot spot of the auto show. People are eager to learn about electric vehicles. They might not be ready to buy one, but they definitely want to, test it out and see what it's all about right now. So the auto show is the best place for them to do that. We also have learned from surveys of our guests that this is where they're making their brand decisions, and a lot of that can hinge, just like it does at a dealership, on that good salesperson at the dealership making a good impact. Well, it's the same if they have a great display at the auto show and a really intelligent product specialist that can be very knowledgeable to them. It's going to make a difference in how someone sees the brand at the auto show. This is a photo of our ride and drive lounge. So you can see we usually have about 16 different manufacturers that offer test drive opportunities. And this is a great opportunity for advertisers and dealers, manufacturers to get people in the vehicle, make them really fall in love with it, but incentivize them with auto show bucks, or come into the dealership and you're going to get, XYZ incentive for doing a test drive or a vehicle, because we all know once you get the butt in the seat, that's the easiest way to sell a car. And also the tracking of people visiting our website, coming to the auto show to get sales, and then visiting a manufacturer. After they attend, we've tracked that 72% of people have at least visited a manufacturer site, and half of the people that come to the auto show go to a dealership at some point. And that coincides with that 60% of people being in the market for a vehicle in the next 6 months. So you can see that, lead generation and your captured audience, your consumer, is absolutely there at the auto show. So ways that dealers can get involved. This year, we saw the dealer support larger than we've ever seen it before, and it was a true testament to know that the dealers really value the auto show and what happens there, because only about 50% of our manufacturers actually put on displays. The other 50% that were at the auto show, which made up 38 different manufacturer representations, were put on by the dealerships themselves or the dealer group. And they know that that participation is going to drive leads and sales eventually. So we gave them different sponsorship opportunities. We give all dealerships that are our members free tickets to give away. We give them a toolkit of social media posts to promote the show, promote themselves, and we give them a coupon for discount tickets as well. So they have a lot of content and marketing opportunity to promote their own existence at the auto show to continue to drive that brand awareness and recognition too. So I think, obviously I'm a little biased here, but it's a great, way to just get a little creative and think out of the box when it comes time to helping your full marketing strategy with your automotive advertisers. So wrapping up here, just a couple, dealer insider conversations that I know are hot topics, and I'm happy to answer questions. So inventory in the future, as I mentioned, this is a photo of a dealership. That is what a lot looks like today. And if you pay attention, my husband, who doesn't pay much attention, he goes, "Oh, look, that dealership looks full." I go, "Honey, that's a Jaguar Land Rover dealership. Look at all the makes and models that are actually in the front row of the parking lot. That's a Jeep, that's a Chrysler, that's a BMW, that's a Mercedes. Those are all their used vehicles because they have no inventory. And it's a real challenge. But I tell anyone that wants to buy a car today, just be patient, order it. If you know what you want, order it now and wait, because if you go in, you're definitely paying that sticker price and gonna have to just settle for a vehicle that is available. And we don't know when that's gonna be. And a rubber shortage is kind of new coming into the news. I just heard about it last week. That is really going to impact tires. We use so many tires in the United States, and not only on what you're getting today, but then if you have any service situations or just those people that want better, nicer tires on their vehicle, there is definitely going to be a rubber shortage in the next couple of months, and you'll start to hear about it more frequently. And so hopefully that doesn't continue to impact our inventory, but it may well. Electric vehicles are on a fast rampage of becoming more popular, more available, inventory more accessible, hopefully in the Texas market as well, because there is a big, not only governmental push, environmental push, but consumers are really starting to ask for electric vehicles, and the manufacturers are pretty much demanding the sales of it. And then everyone always asks me about Tesla and direct purchasing. This year was a legislative year, and Tesla did not win any further position here in Texas, even though they're building a mega plant and changing a lot of their corporate activity here. They still were not successful in the legislative to change our franchise laws. And those franchise laws are in place for not just because we don't want people to be able to purchase a vehicle easily, but it's about competitive marketing and service. Service is a big one. We have a dealer that owned a Tesla. He was happy with it. He said, "Man, this is the coolest car I've ever had," until it breaks down. When it breaks down, there's like 2 service departments in all of Texas for you to fix your direct purchase vehicle. What if that was the same for Ford, Chevrolet, Lexus, and Toyota? I mean, everyone would be stranded, and you'd have to use public transportation much more often. And we know in Houston, that's not a popular option. So we have to think about that. Those are the real reasons why we're protecting our franchise laws. And everyone would be happy to sell a Tesla. All of our dealers have said, "For sure, deem me an opportunity to sell Teslas. I'd be happy to all day long." And that's the only thing that any of these new direct purchase model types want to do, is if they would just say, "Okay, Chris Caldwell, you can sell this vehicle on our behalf," they could sell them, and it would be no issue whatsoever. So that's kind of where that stands legislatively right now, and it'll come back up in 2 more years, I'm sure. And that's kind of my quick wrap up of automotive market in today's world in Houston, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we do have a few questions. We did have a couple about Tesla and the impact on the industry, so you answered those. One question came up about kind of government regulation. There is a law that says that dealers have to be closed 1 day a week. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that ever going to change? Or do the dealers not want it to change?
I don't even recall. I'd have to look up the history up on why this even started. I've forgotten now. But we did have a conversation recently with a dealer about it, and he was very much like, "It's okay. It's fine, because we need that time as a business to rest, recuperate, and recharge everything." So I think we were talking that it didn't make a huge difference in their sales to be open both days, even though you would assume so. So there hasn't been enough demand for it to be changed.
Okay. Let's see. What % of media spend are the tier 2 and 3 entities back at pre-COVID levels? Like if you looked at 2019 being our last normal year, today, what % are tier 2 and 3 in terms of ad spend? And I don't expect you to have the exact answer, but you have it.
I don't have those exact answers, and I probably get myself in trouble, but I'm going to make an assumption that the majority of them are getting back. But it all varies manufacturer to manufacturer on their inventory and where that's going. And I think they're having to be very lean and cautious of how they're spending because it's very unpredictable on what's going to happen with that inventory. So they just want to make sure that they're spending smartly. And for those that can and know that they have inventory coming in or are larger sellers within those allocations, they want to keep spending and they want to maintain those allocations. Like I was talking about with the suburban Kia dealer, like he wants to keep that inventory coming to him and not to someone else. So he's not going to reduce his ad spend. He's going to keep it as it has been.
Well, and I think that answers one of the other questions we got. Does inventory allocation explain why some dealers have continued to advertise while others have dropped off?
Yes, absolutely. And this is something that I've been continuing to learn about with them, but for sure, it's very strategic for them to have that process, right? You don't want to lose that momentum because then you start to be penalized instead of just cutting back on what you're doing.
One question, you kind of touched on it at the very beginning of your presentation. There was a question that was specifically about the chip shortage, because you kind of said, well, this thing might, we might normalize at the end of Q3 2021, but it might be Q3 2022. Specific to the chip shortage, is there, I guess, light at the end of the tunnel on that specifically? I mean, is the inventory improving?
So having worked in a purchasing department, I have some knowledge of how this kind of works. And what happens is, the Asian manufacturers are very lean purchasers, and Toyota really started this. And I read a really fascinating article about their purchasing process and how they do things so leanly. So in that, they decided, okay, let's cut back on these microchips. Well, those that didn't cut back and continued to maintain their orders, they're not going to continue with the same microchip shortage for as long as the others that did decide to cut back on their supply chain operations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Okay, this is kind of a little bit of a granular media strategy question. Connected TV. Are tier 2 and tier 3 embracing connected TV as, I guess, a bigger chunk of their ad spend? I mean, are they evaluating return on ad spend? Or are they kind of going to the same, we want to do radio remotes and heavy up weekend television?
I think it varies from dealer to dealer, but they really want to see, the bottom line is they want to see the return on the investment, and they want to see the data proof that shows, okay, yes, people are using the connected TV and they are getting a better experience from it. And if that can provide any data tracked back or any correlation with what's happening at their dealership, I think then they're open to listening to those conversations and making that experience happen. But they've really got, since it's so new, they want some evidence of its success.
Okay. Last question. It says, regarding service departments, have the dealers had any labor challenges with hiring workers, which could also potentially impact their advertising strategy?
Aren't we all? I think everyone has experienced a labor shortage. So yes, and we've already been in a challenge position with finding technicians. The mechanic world today is no longer a mechanic. It is absolutely a technician. You have to be computer savvy, and it's a whole new training process. It's not just oil changes anymore. It's true diagnostics. So just finding employee training and people that want to do that kind of job has become a challenge in the whole industry nationwide. So I think having this pandemic employment shortage is definitely impacting that today too. Does that trickle down to advertising? I would doubt it. I think unless that's a particular silo of advertising the service department and their offerings.
Okay. That concludes our Q&A. So thank you for your time. That was a great presentation.
Thank you all for the opportunity. I'm so happy to see everyone and connect again.
Thank you,
Feel
Rochelle.
free, anyone can reach out for further conversations and questions or connections. Feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. All right, Amanda.
Yes, thanks so much, Rochelle. I know after listening, I am feeling a lot better about having to buy 4 new tires, especially hearing that there's going to be a rubber shortage soon. That makes me feel a lot better about that investment. But we really appreciate all of your insight and just hearing from you. That was a really great presentation. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And as we talked about at the beginning, we'll have our next luncheon on August 11th, which will be about attribution. Be on the lookout for more information about that. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everyone.